No, I'm sorry, this won't be about SJWs managing to get a little introspection. I think we all know they're incapable of that, but I was just thinking about YouTubers and the type of videos that they make with respect to the SJW stupidity that we see online. I do make some videos about the regressive left, and was trying to figure out where my style fits in along the continuum of YouTube content creators. Really, there's a pretty clear line, at least from where I'm sitting, along which people who respond to regressive craziness reside. On one end are the content creators who seem satisfied to just make fun of the SJWs and their antics, calling them a bunch of idiots, and never really responding to what they say, just the fact that they say it. And on the other end of the spectrum are people who really get into what they say in depth and really take apart their claims and prove them wrong. Now, I'm not going to mention specific content creators who I think fit into these camps. I'm sure you can work out for yourself where your favorite YouTuber fits along the scale. I just want to establish what I see as the scale and where I fit into it. I think I fall somewhere in the middle. Yes, I do point out their stupidity, but I also try to pick a couple of things that they say and go into a little more depth on why what they say is wrong. I don't really get into a lot of detail, both because I don't find it particularly necessary to really disassemble their ideology, and I find the kind of meticulously dissected arguments that I've seen from some to be, let's be honest, pretty boring. I mean, sure, you can break down the gender wage gap stupidity and prove that it's laughably wrong, but that's been done a lot, and there really isn't any need to do it again and again and again. I question whether just because you can do a thing, that it's really necessary that you need to do that thing. This is YouTube, not a peer-reviewed journal. Spending half an hour examining every aspect of every claim made by an SJW snowflake, I think that seems a bit needlessly anal. But going entirely the other way seems pointless to me too. Just saying you're an idiot over and over and over doesn't seem to be particularly worthwhile. I've been making a video in the past where I've realized that I really have nothing more to say than, what an asshole. And that may be true. They may be an asshole. But if that's all you've got to say about them, what's the point? So there have actually been videos that I've completed only to delete because I went way too far to this side and I don't think there was anything else I could do to fix it. In fact, there's one video about Francesca Ramsey, which is just sitting there, fully written, which I may never go back to because I just spend the whole time calling her a racist. Yeah, she's a racist. But since I couldn't find anything else worthwhile to say, it just sits there and rots. Now, don't get me wrong. I think it's important to point out the stupidity of the regressive left, and there sure is a lot of it to point out. But if that's all you do, if your channel just exists to make fun of people, no matter how desperately they deserve it, I don't know that I can really respect that either. I used to have a playlist called Shallow End of the Gene Pool that was made for people who had absolutely no redeeming value whatsoever. It was made for the real idiots, the people whose stupidity was incomprehensible to the point that rational rebuttal was simply impossible because everything in the video made your brain hurt. And I haven't done one of those for a very long time and may very well never do one again. At the very least, it would have to be someone very special, in the short bus kind of special, in order to qualify, and frankly, hitting someone that far down the totem pole doesn't seem all that fun to me. And while video makers that do it get lots of hits, I've found myself largely unsubscribing from them, just as I have from the long-winded people who dig into every argument in absurd detail. I find that I like the middle ground, and since I like seeing it, I also like making it. A lot of this goes for the religious as well, but I find that they at least try to make some cogent arguments once in a while, unlike the illiberal left that tends to base all their arguments on emotion and nothing else. At least the religious have holy books and philosophical arguments that they can point to as justification for their beliefs. What do regressives have besides emotion? I mean, when's the last time you saw one of these snowflakes say, now we're going to construct a logical syllogism that demonstrates why we believe this is actually true? When's the last time a regressive said they were actually going to prove the gender wage gap actually exists with evidence? As bad as some of the arguments are for religion, the arguments for politics are often much, much worse if they exist at all. Most political arguments are simply arguments from assertion, and that's the problem. When it comes to political and social positions, it's all just opinion. Unless you're addressing a specific claim, There are no facts or figures. It's just what I think based on whatever feelings or criteria you happen to have. Very few people ever really sit down and examine why they hold the positions that they do. And I think that's a serious problem. Self-reflection matters. It is important that not only do you know what positions you hold, but why you do so and whether or not you actually should. And I find that most people simply don't do that. They hold their beliefs for emotional reasons and have never thought about it beyond that. Like it or not, this is an issue. You should continually test what you believe and question why you believe it. There should never be a point in your life where you say, this is what I believe and it will be this way forever, and then never think about it again. If you're doing that, you're doing intelligence wrong and you need to knock it off. You ought to be better than that, and if you're not, then seriously, get better. Being an irrational moron is not something you should be proud of. I guess in the end what I'm trying to say is that while we probably don't need to go over everything the SJWs say with a fine-tooth comb, we also can't swing too wide the other way and just call them names. Yeah, sometimes they deserve it because they aren't behaving any better than a petulant child. But why should we fall into the same camp? Why shouldn't we be better than them? Because if we're not, what's the point of doing what we're doing? Think about that, won't you?